Good evening, everybody. This is Engineer Pat 5290 coming to you with the May Q&A responses. I just would like to say this has been a very good month. A lot of interesting questions have come in. So I want to thank each and every one of you for participating in this month. And I've already looked forward to reading your questions, and let's go ahead and get a dive into this. First set of questions comes from Trey Man 3985. Good to see you on here. He asked a nice list of questions. What's your favorite and least favorite railroad, both past and present? I never liked the Penn Central, but I've always liked the Santa Fe, the Southern, Conrail. All-time favorite is Norfolk Southern today. I really don't have a least favorite just because all the railroads are the same to me. Uh, so that answers that one, I think. What freight locomotive is better, ES44 or the Ace? EMD has to take that one. In terms of trains you haven't seen, what do you hope to see in the future? Well, I really don't have a set answer, but maybe some more interesting catches on the railroad that I have that have been unheard of sometime. Maybe a new rebuild. Um, and I want to try to get into some of the scenic railroads in the near future. How many model engines and cars do you have for your model railroad, and does it change from time to time? I really don't keep track of all my stuff just because I really don't collect that much. But I do run them occasionally, though. Favorite engine of all time? Uh, for EMD, SD40-2. For GE, is the B36-7 with the high hood cab and in southern paint. And my favorite GE standard cab of the 90s, Dash 8 standard cab. Favorite EMD of the newer times, SD70 ACE. Thoughts on the X Santa Fe CF7s? Those are interesting locomotives that were rebuilt passenger locomotives, so I was glad to see the ATSF repurposed an old locomotive. Favorite long distance passenger train? Auto train that runs on the East Coast. SD40-2 or the Dash 8 BWH SD40-2. Favorite steam engine whistle? I really don't have a favorite. I just like them just because they sound very relaxing, and all of the whistles are very unique. What inspired you to use the username Engineer Pat 5290? 5290 was a Norfolk Southern locomotive, and those numbers also add up to 16. Because 16 is not only when I got my driver's license, but that's when I really started getting out and getting some trains on film and some pictures. So I really started doing that. That's why it inspired me to use both numbers for the same reason. Um, Favorite diesel engine whistle? Well, technically horn. RS3L for Leslie, P5 and P3 for Nathan, and K5LLA for the newer ones. Of all the videos, which is your favorite and which one's your least favorite? Oh, that's a really good question, but let me just say this. I have done a lot of videos, and it's hard um, to really pick a favorite and a least favorite just because all the videos are different and they're all unique in some way. So I really don't have a favorite or a least favorite. They're just all unique. If you don't mind jokes, what do you call a train that delivers apples and bananas? A tutti frutti, and that's good. That's a good joke there. And that was also a famous song that was sung by Little Richard back in the 50s, who's a matter of fact recently passed away. So thank you very much for your questions. The switch list comes in. Good to see you here. I think this is the first time I've seen you here. He says, "Hey Pat, sorry if any of these have been asked before. Your layout on the floor, are you able to set it up all the time or take it apart? I keep it set up most of the time. Any short-term possibility to have a more traditional layout? That has been undecided. Where exactly in sub you capture your home signal videos? Let me stop there for a second. First of all, no locations are allowed to be given. I hate to say that, but I prefer not to like to give that information out. But home signal is just a term a friend of mine does when he calls the signals. That's just something that he does, and I just incorporate in my videos. So that is just a little explanation of home. So not only for the switches, but just for everybody. That is actually something that a friend of mine does, and I'd like to incorporate that in my videos. What do you do for a living? I am a salesman for a chemical company. So thank you, sir, for your questions. Carter Sadati asked about that Central PA Railfan, by the way. Good to see you here. Which do you like better, Boeing F-15EX or Grumman Aerospace Corp F-14D Tomcat? For jets, F-14 Tomcat. One of the one of my very favorite jets that was ordered for the U.S. Navy. Southeast Virginia Railfan comes back with some questions. Good to see you back. Do you like seafood? Oh, yes. I'm a seafood freak, but I don't eat oysters or clams. I eat most other seafood. Have you been to the Outer Banks? Been to the Outer Banks. KCS or CP? Eh, KCS has a little bit different history, in my opinion. Do you like Volvo trucks? Not especially. They are unique. Been to Pembroke, North Carolina to Railfan? No. Hamlet, North Carolina is better. Favorite hump yard? Hamlet, North Carolina. So, thank you, sir, for your questions. Central PA Railfan comes in with some questions. That's another question he left there for the aircraft portion. The C6M or the C6CF, basically that is almost the exact same locomotive, but I think the computer system is different between the two locomotives. So I have to say the C6M. Dash 9W or the Ace, H for the win. 60E or the Dash 8.5. Oh, 60E for the win. The Dash 8.5 was one of the most ridiculous rebuilds ever. 38-2 or the 40-2, they're both about the same. I like both. And the SD40-3 or the 40-2 has to be the 40-2 without a doubt. So thank you very much for your questions. And guys, please continue to come back and ask good questions. Stephen KC Railfan comes back in. Great to see you back. How would you like it if the NW 611 went through Suffolk? Well, I'd be absolutely amazed. And it actually went through Suffolk before I was born. So that is home rails right there for the NW 611. Thoughts on the Cajon Pass runaways? Those were wake-up calls, in my opinion, and I'm really glad that they learned lessons from all three of those wrecks. Least favorite steam locomotives, I have one name for it, the Commodore Vanderbilt. I absolutely hated that steam locomotive. It was a J1E Hudson that looked like a bathtub on top of the locomotive. I never liked it. Now, my favorite steam locomotive is obviously the 611 on the NW, but for New York Central is the J1E Hudson and also the Dreyfuss Hudson. And I also like the 20th Century Limited. BNSF or CSX, they're about the same to me. Who has the better paint scheme? I would have to say BNSF now because it's the swoosh logo. I like the swoosh logo. KCS White Ghost, Southern Belle, or the Gray Ghost. Southern Belle because that's the more iconic paint scheme. Bacon or scrambled eggs, they both go well together. I like both, but just put a buttermilk biscuit with some honey on there. Oh yeah. Thoughts on 4001's new hybrid K5 LLA horn? I did not know this, but man, that sounds pretty good. Pancakes or waffles? I like both. Thoughts on scales with announcing the Dash 9 stair cabs? Let's go. Those actually look great. Scale trains is awesome. They produce a lot of good trains. What locomotives or freight cars would you like to see scale trains do next? Anything that's interesting. Maybe even a Jeep 30 high hood or uh, a B36-7, for example. Just a couple of locomotives that they could do. Would you rather travel to Colorado or Alaska? I would not going back to Colorado. I've actually been up there, but it's been years though. UP or CN? CN just because of their predecessor history. They have some of their heritage locomotives, like some IC locomotives, some GTW, some Wisconsin Central, BC Rail. All those locomotives are left. I do like them because they preserve their predecessor history, as well as the EJ&E and the Bessemer Lake Erie. The Illinois Terminal, Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. I don't know too much about either one of them, but they were both pretty cool. SD7 or the 40-2 high hoods. 40-2 high hoods with tuxedo paint on them. 60M or the 70 standard cab. 70 Spartan cab for the win. Wabash or the Great Northern. I like the Wabash because of the Wabash Cannonball. The Great Northern was cool because of the Hustle Muscle SD45. Have you ever drawn pictures of trains when you were young? I might have done some out of a drawing book, but not like a real locomotive drawing. But there is somebody out there, I believe, that does that, does drawings. So I have to look up his name for you. P42DC or the Dash 832 BWH. I always was a fan of the Dash 8. The P42 was good, but both of them looked good in Phase 3. When or how did you get into model railroading? It was my father and grandfather. They got me into model trains, and we run trains every now and then. My grandfather passed away several years ago, but my dad and I continue to do that. So it brings a little tradition in. So thank you very much, sir, for your questions. Andrew Liam comes back in. Good to see you again. Which of these articulated steam locomotives do you mostly prefer out of the options listed? I prefer the Big Boy and the Norfolk and Western Y class. Out of all your heritage railroads you've listed so far, which one is your favorite? ATSF, the Southern, Conrail, and I was also a fan of the New York Central a little bit. What's your top 5 favorite retired steam locomotives? I can give you the first 3: NNW 611, NNW 1218, NNW 2156, the 4449, and the 4014. They're my top 5. So Central PA Railfan listed his name. Thank you very much for clarifying that, and thank you, Andrew Leah, for your questions. Steve Weeby BB Railfan Productions comes back with a few. Have you heard about the 60th anniversary photos event at Strasbourg? No, but man, that does sound like cool. Favorite specially paid DC to AC, 4000 and 4001 because they were the premieres. Favorite CP Vets unit, not really a fan of them, but I like the 7021 and the 7023. First NS Heritage you ever caught out of the 20, it was actually the Virginian. Have you seen a Heritage Duo? No, I have not, but I'm still on the lookout for those. Have you Railfan Bluefield, West Virginia? That is on my to-do list to go. So thank you for your question, sir. Trey Man 1993 comes in with just a few. Do you like Chinese food and video games? Not a huge video gamer. Never was a fan of Chinese food. Any opinions on Bachman? That's what I started with, but now I've slowly gotten back into Athearn. So thank you, gentlemen, for your questions. Take username comes back in with a long list of questions. Thank you so much for getting there. But this is where part 1 will stop. We'll pick you up with part 2. So stick right here for part 2.